The transport ship docked with a heavy clang that echoed through the metal corridors. Captain Lee Hana grabbed her equipment bag and stepped onto the research station floating in the darkness of space. She had been to many stations before, but this one felt different. Quieter, almost empty. A man in a white lab coat waited for her at the airlock. He was tall and thin, with tired eyes behind his glasses. He extended his hand with a weak smile. "Captain Lee, welcome. I'm Dr. Kang Minho, head of research here. Thank you for coming on such short notice." Hana shook his hand firmly. She had spent 15 years in the elite guard, protecting diplomats, securing weapons facilities, and leading combat missions in 3 different war zones. This assignment confused her. A research station studying animals? It made no sense for someone with her experience. "Dr. Kang, with respect, why am I here?" "My orders were vague." "What exactly needs protection on a wildlife research station?" The doctor's smile faded. He glanced down the corridor as if checking for listeners. "Let me show you. It's easier than explaining." They walked through the station's white hallways. The walls were clean but old, showing signs of years in service. Through the windows, Hana could see the planet below, Velcaris Prime. A world covered in purple forests and blue oceans. Beautiful and strange. Dr. Kang led her to a large observation room. Inside was a habitat built to look like the planet's surface. Purple plants grew under artificial sunlight. A small pool of water reflected the lights. And in the corner, huddled together on a soft platform, were 3 small creatures. They looked almost like cats, but not quite. Their fur was silver and seemed to shimmer when they moved. Their eyes were too large, too intelligent. Their ears rotated independently, tracking every sound. The largest was about the size of a house cat. The other 2 were smaller. One was barely bigger than Hana's hand. "The Velcari cubs," Dr. Kang said quietly. "Their parents were killed 3 months ago in a territorial fight on the planet. We rescued them before predators could find them. They're the only Velcari juveniles ever studied by humans." Hana watched the creatures. They weren't moving much. The smallest one was shaking slightly. "They look sick. They're malnourished. We feed them on a strict schedule, but they're not thriving. We're not sure why." The doctor pulled out a data pad and showed her charts and graphs. "Their species is empathic. They can sense emotions through some kind of bioelectric field. We think they're depressed, grieving their parents." Before Hana could respond, the door opened behind them. A man in a military uniform strode in. Commander Park Junho. He was stocky and broad-shouldered, with gray hair cut military short. His face was hard, like someone who had forgotten how to smile. "Captain Lee, you're here. Good. Let me be clear about your duties." He didn't offer to shake hands. "This station has 15 personnel. Your job is to maintain security protocols and ensure no unauthorized access to research materials. The cubs are classified as research subjects. They're fed twice daily at 0800 and 1800 hours. Adults eat first. Cubs eat after. This is standard procedure for optimal resource management." Hana frowned. "Sir, they look hungry now." "They're on a schedule, Captain. Discipline and routine are important, even for animals. Your quarters are on Deck 3. Dismissed." Commander Park left without another word. Dr. Kang sighed and rubbed his eyes. "He's not a bad man, just practical, too practical maybe. What do you think?" Hana asked. "I think something's wrong, but I can't figure out what. Maybe you'll see something I've missed. You have fresh eyes." He handed her a security badge. "You have access to all areas. The cub's feeding is monitored by the system, so everything's documented. Feel free to observe whenever you want." That night, Hana couldn't sleep. Her quarters were small but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a tiny bathroom. Through her window, she could see the stars and the planet slowly rotating below. She thought about the cubs, about the way they huddled together, about the smallest one shaking. She had seen that kind of fear before. In children during the war, in civilians trapped behind enemy lines. It was the look of someone who had lost everything and was waiting for the end. At 200 hours, she got dressed and walked to the observation room. The station was quiet. Most personnel were sleeping. She used her badge to enter and stood in the darkness, watching the habitat through the glass. The cubs were awake. They moved slowly around their space, sniffing the air. The largest one made a soft chirping sound. The others responded with similar noises. They were talking to each other in their own language. Then the smallest one broke away from the others. It approached the corner of the habitat where the feeding station was built into the wall. The cub stood on its back legs and reached up with its front paws. It was trying to open the food storage compartment. Hana felt something strange, a wave of sensation that wasn't hers. Hunger. Deep aching hunger that made her stomach clench. She looked at the cub and the cub looked back at her. Those big eyes locked onto hers through the glass. Intelligent eyes. Aware eyes. The cub didn't look away. It just stared at her with an expression that crossed all species barriers. Please, I'm so hungry. Please help. The sensation faded as the cub dropped back to all four legs and returned to its siblings. They curled up together again, and the smallest one buried itself in the middle of the pile. Hana stood there for a long time, her hand pressed against the cold glass. She had been in combat. She had made hard decisions. She had followed orders that she disagreed with because orders were orders. But this felt different. Something was wrong here. Commander Park's efficient schedule wasn't working. Dr. Kang knew it but couldn't prove it. And those cubs were suffering in ways that humans couldn't measure with their instruments and charts. She returned to her quarters as the station's lights began their dawn cycle. She lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. In 6 hours it would be feeding time. The adults would eat first. The cubs would eat second. That was the rule. That was the protocol. But Hana kept seeing those eyes. Kept feeling that hunger that wasn't her own. Something was going to change. She could feel it. And she knew somehow that she was going to be the one to change it. The first time Hana broke protocol, her hands were shaking. It was 5:30 hours before the station's official wake-up cycle. She stood in the habitat room with a container of high-protein paste in her hands. The kind the research notes said the cubs needed but rarely got enough of. The cubs heard her enter and immediately perked up. Their large eyes focused on her. The smallest one made a soft chirping sound. Hana opened the feeding hatch and placed the container inside. The cubs rushed forward, not with the desperate scramble of starving animals but with obvious relief. They ate slowly, carefully, sharing the food between them. The largest one stepped back to let the smallest eat first from the group. She watched them and felt that strange sensation again. Not hunger this time. Something else. Warmth. Gratitude. Contentment. When they finished, the cubs looked at her again. Then they did something unexpected. They began to hum. It was a sound that Hana felt more than heard, like a vibration in her chest. The tension she had been carrying since arriving at the station seemed to ease. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breathing deepened. "What are you doing to me?" she whispered. The cubs just blinked at her with those intelligent eyes and curled up together to sleep. They looked peaceful for the first time since she had arrived. Hana left the habitat and returned to her quarters. She ate her own breakfast and prepared for her shift. Nobody had seen her. The security cameras in that section were on her authorized access list, so the system wouldn't flag her entry as unusual. She had been careful, but she knew she would do it again tomorrow, and she did. Every morning at 05:30 hours, Hana fed the cubs before anyone else was awake. Within a week, the changes were obvious. The cubs were more active. They played with each other. Their fur looked shinier. The smallest one stopped shaking, Dr. Kang noticed. He came to find Hana during her afternoon security rounds. His expression was troubled. "Captain Lee, can we talk privately?" They went to his office, a small room filled with data pads and research equipment. He closed the door and pulled up footage on his screen. It showed Hana entering the habitat room, feeding the cubs, leaving. "I pulled the security logs for the past week. The cubs' behavior changed suddenly. I wanted to know why." He looked at her carefully. "You're feeding them off schedule. Before the official feeding time. Before the adults eat." Hana met his eyes steadily. "Yes, that's against Commander Park's direct orders. Against military protocol." "I know." Dr. Kang was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up another screen. "Look at this. The cubs' bio readings over the past week, heart rate, brain activity, hormone levels, all improved. Dramatically improved. Whatever you're doing is working." "Then what's the problem?" Hana asked. "The problem is that I'm supposed to report protocol violations, but the scientific results are remarkable." He rubbed his face. "I don't know what to do. If Commander Park finds out, you'll face disciplinary action, maybe court-martial. Let him find out. Those cubs were dying slowly. Now they're not." The doctor looked at her with something like admiration. "You really don't care about the consequences, do you?" "I care about doing what's right, but the consequences came anyway." 3 days later, Hana was doing her morning rounds when she encountered Lieutenant Choi Daeun near the mess hall. Daeun was one of the other security officers, a woman in her late 20s with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. "Morning, Captain. Heard some interesting rumors about you." Daeun's voice was cold. "I don't listen to rumors, Lieutenant." "Well, maybe you should. People are saying you're going soft, that you care more about alien animals than about doing your job. Some people think your last mission broke something in you." Hana stopped walking and turned to face Daeun directly. "My last mission has nothing to do with this." But that was a lie, and both of them knew it. 6 months ago, Hana had led a rescue operation that went wrong. 3 members of her squad died. She survived. The guilt followed her everywhere. Maybe that was why she was assigned here, to a quiet research station where nothing dangerous was supposed to happen. Daeun stepped closer. "You're not fit for elite guard duty. Everyone can see it. You should resign before you embarrass yourself further." Hana didn't respond. She simply walked away. But the words stung because part of her wondered if they were true. That evening, as Hana prepared for the official 1800 feeding time, she noticed something new. The other station personnel seemed calmer. There had been an argument in the mess hall yesterday between 2 engineers, but today they were working together smoothly. Dr. Kang mentioned that his sleep had improved. Even Commander Park seemed slightly less rigid during the morning briefing. Hana wondered if it was coincidence, or if it was something else. She went to the observation room early. The cubs were already waiting, looking at her through the glass. When she entered the habitat, they approached without fear. The largest one rubbed against her leg like a cat seeking affection. The smallest one climbed onto her boot and looked up at her. That's when Commander Park walked in. "Captain Lee, what are you doing?" Hana straightened but didn't step away from the cubs. "Sir, I'm conducting a welfare check on the research subjects." "At feeding time? When you should be at your security station?" "Sir, with respect, the cubs' welfare affects station security. If they're stressed or sick, it could impact research outcomes and personnel morale." Commander Park's face darkened. "Don't play word games with me, Captain. I've reviewed the security footage. You've been feeding these animals off schedule, before adults eat, directly violating my orders." "Yes, sir, I have." "And you have no excuse?" Hana thought about lying, about making up a tactical reason or a security concern. But she was tired of lies. "No, sir. I did it because it was necessary." "Necessary?" Commander Park's voice rose. "Who are you to decide what's necessary? You're here to follow orders, not make them up as you go." The cubs sensed the tension. They moved closer to Hana, forming a protective circle around her feet. Their humming sound grew louder. Hana felt that warmth again spreading through her chest, Commander Park noticed. His anger faltered for just a moment as he felt the same sensation. The room seemed to calm. His shoulders dropped slightly. Then he caught himself and his face hardened again. "You're on notice, Captain Lee. One more violation of protocol and you'll face formal charges. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Now get to your post." Hana left the habitat room, the cubs watching her go with worried eyes. She felt their concern like a physical weight. They knew she was in trouble. They knew it was because of them. That night, Hana lay in her quarters and stared at the ceiling. She had never been one to break rules. Her entire career was built on discipline and following orders. But something had changed in her, or maybe something had been broken and was now healing in a different shape. She thought about her squad members who died, about how she had followed every protocol and they still ended up dead, about how sometimes doing the right thing meant breaking the rules that made no sense. At 0200 hours, she got up and walked to the observation room again. The cubs were awake as if they had been waiting for her. When she looked through the glass, the smallest one approached and placed its tiny paw against the barrier. Hana pressed her hand against the glass, matching the cub's paw. And she felt it clearly this time. Not just warmth or gratitude. She felt understanding, connection. The cub wasn't just receiving her compassion, it was giving something back. The alarm went off at 400 hours. Solar flare warning. The station's lights flashed red as personnel rushed to emergency positions. And in the chaos that followed, Hana would discover exactly what the cubs had been giving her all along. The solar flare hit the station like a hammer. Hana was thrown against the wall as the gravity stabilizers fluctuated. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Alarms screamed through the corridors. She pulled herself up and activated her communication device. All personnel report status. Medical team, prepare for radiation exposure protocols. The responses came in quickly. Most personnel were safe in the shielded areas, but 3 engineers had been working in the outer ring when the flare hit. They were being brought to the medical bay now. Hana ran through the corridors, her training taking over. She found Dr. Kang in the medical bay, working frantically over 3 unconscious crew members on tables. Their skin looked burned. Their breathing was shallow. How bad? Hana asked. Bad. The flare damaged our main diagnostic equipment. I can't get accurate readings on the radiation levels in their bodies. I'm treating blindly. His hands were steady, but his voice shook. I might be making it worse. One of the engineers started convulsing. Dr. Kang rushed to stabilize her, injecting medication that might help or might do nothing. The other 2 were deteriorating fast. Then Hana heard it. That humming sound. She turned to see all 3 cubs standing in the doorway of the medical bay. They must have escaped their habitat during the chaos. The door had been damaged by the power surge. How did they get out? Dr. Kang shouted. Captain, secure them. But Hana didn't move. She watched as the cubs entered the medical bay and approached the injured engineers. They climbed onto the tables, 1 cub per patient. Then they pressed their small bodies against the humans and began to hum louder. The sound filled the room. Hana felt it vibrating in her bones. The cub's fur began to glow faintly, silver light pulsing in rhythm with their humming. What are they doing? Dr. Kang whispered. I think they're trying to help. The engineer who had been convulsing began to calm. Her breathing steadied. The other 2 showed similar improvements. Their vital signs, visible on the few working monitors, started stabilizing. But the cubs were suffering. Hana could see them trembling with effort. The smallest one looked like it might collapse. They were pouring their energy into the humans, draining themselves. Hana made a decision. She ran from the medical bay to the emergency supply room. She knew where the high nutrition rations were stored, the kind meant for critical situations. She grabbed 3 containers and ran back. Dr. Kang was still watching the cubs in amazement. Their bioemissions are off the scale. I've never seen anything like this. Hana opened the first container and held it out to the largest cub. Here, eat now. The cub looked at her, then at the dying human beneath it. It didn't want to stop helping. Eat, Hana said firmly. You can't help them if you die. Eat first, then heal, the cub understood. It ate quickly, and Hana fed the other 2 cubs as well. She gave them far more than their usual portions. She gave them everything they needed and more. The effect was immediate. The cubs' energy returned. Their glow brightened, and their healing of the engineers intensified. Within minutes, all 3 humans were breathing normally. Their color improved. They were going to survive. Lieutenant Daeun appeared in the doorway. Her face was furious. Captain Lee, step away from those animals immediately. You're feeding them emergency rations meant for human personnel. I'm saving lives. Lieutenant, you're wasting critical supplies on alien creatures when humans might need those rations. The aliens are saving the humans. Daeun, look at the patients. Daeun moved to physically pull Hana away. Her hand grabbed Hana's shoulder. But before she could pull, Commander Park's voice cut through the room. Lieutenant Choi, stand down. Everyone turned. Commander Park stood in the doorway, his face unreadable. He looked at the cubs, at the stabilizing engineers, at Hana with the ration containers. Sir, Captain Lee is violating emergency protocols, Daeun protested. I can see what she's doing, Lieutenant. I can also see that 3 of my crew members are alive when they should be dead. Commander Park stepped closer to the nearest cub. Dr. Kang, what's happening here? The doctor was examining the cubs with a portable scanner, one of the few devices still working. His hands shook as he read the results. Commander, this is impossible. These cubs are generating bioenergy and channeling it into the patients. They're accelerating cellular repair, filtering radiation damage, stabilizing neural activity. They're doing what our medical equipment can't do. How? I don't know. But Captain Lee is right. They needed the nutrition to sustain this level of energy output. Dr. Kang turned to Hana. How did you know to feed them? I didn't know. I just understood. Hana couldn't explain it better than that. She had felt the cubs' exhaustion and known what they needed. Commander Park was silent for a long moment. Then he said, Dr. Kang, I want full medical scans of Captain Lee and the cubs as soon as the equipment is back online. Something is happening here that we don't understand, sir, Hana asked. You've been feeding these cubs off schedule for 2 weeks. You've spent more time with them than anyone. And somehow you knew exactly what they needed in a crisis. His eyes narrowed. Either you're incredibly lucky or something else is going on. I want to know which. The cubs finished their healing work. The engineers were stable now, sleeping peacefully. The cubs climbed down from the tables and walked to Hana. They pressed against her legs, exhausted but content. The smallest one looked up at her with complete trust. Lieutenant Daeun watched this with obvious disgust. This is inappropriate, Commander. An elite guard officer shouldn't be forming emotional attachments to research subjects. Noted, Lieutenant. Dismissed. Daeun left, her footsteps angry on the metal floor. Dr. Kang carefully lifted one of the cubs to examine it closer. Remarkable. Their metabolism is unlike anything I've studied. They take in nutrition and convert it to bioenergy at an incredible rate. Then they share that energy. With who? Commander Park asked. With whoever they consider part of their family group. Dr. Kang looked at Hana. They've bonded with you, Captain. You're their protector, and they're protecting you in return. Hana felt a chill. What do you mean? I mean that while you've been feeding them, they've been feeding you. Bioenergy, healing energy. That's why the whole station has been calmer. That's why personnel sleep better. The cubs are sharing their energy field with everyone, but especially with you. Commander Park's expression changed. Not quite softer, but less hard. So when Captain Lee violated my orders and fed the cubs first, she was actually creating a positive feedback loop. The better nourished the cubs are, the more they can help. The more they help, the better everything functions. Dr. Kang smiled tiredly. She wasn't breaking protocol, Commander. She was establishing a new one that actually works. The main power came back online with a hum. The red emergency lights were replaced by normal white. The crisis was passing. The engineers would recover. The station had survived. Commander Park looked at Hana for a long moment. I owe you an apology, Captain. Sir, you were following standard procedure. You couldn't have known. Neither could you, but you trusted your instincts anyway. He glanced at the cubs. Keep doing what you're doing. And Dr. Kang, make those scans your top priority. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with here. That night, after emergency repairs were finished and the cubs were secured back in their habitat, Hana finally returned to her quarters. She was exhausted but couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what Dr. Kang said. The cubs were feeding her energy, healing her. She looked at her reflection in the small mirror. She looked the same. But she felt different. The weight she had carried since her squad died seemed lighter. The guilt was still there, but it no longer crushed her. The cubs had been healing her trauma without her even knowing. And she had been feeding them, taking care of them, protecting them. It was the oldest exchange in the universe. Care given and care received. Love offered and love returned. Hana smiled for the first time in months. Dr. Kang called the meeting 3 days after the solar flare incident. All senior staff gathered in the conference room, including Hana, Commander Park, Lieutenant Daeun, and the chief engineer. The doctor looked like he hadn't slept since the emergency. His eyes were bright with excitement and exhaustion. Thank you for coming. What I'm about to share will change everything we know about the Velkari species. He pulled up a holographic display showing complex biological scans. These are Captain Lee's brain scans from 2 weeks ago when she arrived at the station. And these are from yesterday. The two images appeared side by side. Even to Hana's untrained eye, there were visible differences. New neural pathways lit up in the recent scan like silver threads. What am I looking at? Commander Park asked. Neural regeneration. Captain Lee's brain is literally rewiring itself. Specifically, the areas damaged by trauma and stress are healing. Dr. Kang zoomed in on a section. Here, the amygdala. This is where trauma memories are stored. In her old scan, there's significant scarring from her last combat mission. In the new scan, that scarring is reduced by 40%. Hana felt her chest tighten. How is that possible? The cubs. Dr. Kang pulled up another set of scans showing the 3 small aliens. They're not just empathic receivers. They're givers. They sense damage in the beings around them and actively heal it. But there's a condition. He changed the display to show energy flow patterns. Arrows moved between Hana and the cubs in a continuous loop. They only heal those who care for them first. It's not just about feeding them. It's about the intention behind the action. Captain Lee fed the cubs before herself. She prioritized their needs over protocol and her own safety. That triggered their healing response. Lieutenant Dayon spoke up, her voice skeptical. So these animals only help people who help them? That's just survival instinct. No, Lieutenant. It's more sophisticated than that. Dr. Kang pulled up historical data. I reviewed all our interaction logs with the cubs over 3 months. Before Captain Lee arrived, we fed them on schedule, kept them clean, maintained their habitat. We took care of them, but they didn't bond with us. They didn't heal us. Do you know why? Silence filled the room. Because we treated them as research subjects. We cared for them the way you care for equipment, efficiently, properly, but without genuine concern for their well-being as individuals. Dr. Kang looked at Hana. Captain, Lee saw them as beings who were suffering. She felt their hunger and responded to it even though it meant breaking rules. That's the difference. Commander Park leaned forward. Are you saying these cubs can sense intent? I'm saying they can sense love, or the closest thing to it, compassion, genuine care, and they respond by giving the same back, amplified through their bioenergy field. The chief engineer raised her hand. I've noticed I've been sleeping better. So has most of my team. Are the cubs doing that too? Yes. Their healing field extends throughout the station, but it's strongest around Captain Lee because she's their primary caregiver. Everyone benefits from improved mood, better sleep, lower stress, but the captain is receiving targeted healing for specific trauma damage. Hana felt strange hearing this. She had thought her healing was just time passing. Normal recovery. But it was the cubs. 3 small creatures she had fed and cared for were saving her in ways she hadn't known she needed. There's more, Dr. Kang continued. I sent these findings to the Xenobiology Council. They consulted with the few Velkari researchers on the frontier worlds. It turns out this is a known trait of the species, but it's considered sacred. The Velkari don't share this information with other species easily. Why not? Commander Park asked. Because it can be exploited. If someone knows the cubs heal, they might use them as tools. Force them to work. The cubs only heal willingly. If they sense they're being used, they shut down completely. They might even die. Lieutenant Dayon's expression changed. For the first time, she looked uncomfortable. So when I said Captain Lee was wasting resources on them, you were advocating for exactly the kind of treatment that would have killed them and eliminated their benefit to everyone on this station. Dr. Kang's words were gentle but firm. The room was quiet. Hana watched Dayon struggle with this information. The lieutenant had been certain that efficiency and protocol were the right answer. Now she was learning that compassion was more practical than cold logic. Commander Park stood and walked to the window overlooking the planet below. I've been in the military for 30 years. I've always believed that discipline and order create the best outcomes. That emotions compromise decision-making. He turned back to the group. I was wrong. Or at least not completely right. He looked at Hana. Captain Lee, you disobeyed my direct orders. You violated established protocol. And you saved 3 lives during the emergency because you understood something I didn't. The cubs trusted you because you trusted your instincts over my rules. Sir, I didn't mean to undermine your authority. I know. You were doing what you thought was right, and you were correct. Commander Park looked at Dr. Kang. I want new protocols established immediately. The cubs are to be classified as critical station assets. They're to be fed first, before human personnel. Whatever they need, they get priority. Sir, Fleet Command might question that decision, the chief engineer said. Then I'll explain it to them. We have proof now, scientific data. The cubs aren't just research subjects. They're partners, and partners take care of each other. He looked at everyone in the room. This stays quiet until I can present it properly to command. Understood. Everyone nodded. The meeting ended, but Dr. Kang asked Hana to stay behind. I wanted to show you something private, he said, pulling up another scan. This is your cardiovascular system. Notice anything different? Hana looked at the image. It looks clearer somehow. Less blocky. That's arterial plaque. Or rather, the absence of it. You had mild buildup from stress and combat rations. It's gone now. Your heart is functioning at a level typically seen in people 10 years younger. He smiled. The cubs are healing damage you didn't even know you had. How long will it last? I don't know. The research suggests that as long as the bond remains strong, the healing continues. But if you were separated from them, the benefits would probably fade over time. Hana thought about the smallest cub, the one who had first made eye contact with her through the glass. I don't want to be separated from them. I don't think they want that either. You've become their family. That's not something their species takes lightly. Later that evening, Hana sat in the habitat room with the cubs. She had finished feeding them their evening meal, and now they were playing. The two larger ones chased each other around the purple plants. The smallest one sat in Hana's lap, purring with that humming sound she had come to love. Lieutenant Daeun appeared in the doorway. She stood there awkwardly, not entering. "Can I help you, Lieutenant?" Hana asked. Daeun stepped inside slowly. "I came to apologize. I was wrong about you. About the cubs. About everything. You were following protocol. That's what we're trained to do." "No, it was more than that." Daeun sat down on a bench near the habitat. "I thought your compassion made you weak. I thought caring about these creatures meant you couldn't do your job. But I was the weak one. I was afraid of feeling anything because I thought it would compromise me." The smallest cub lifted its head from Hana's lap and looked at Daeun. Then it climbed down and walked slowly toward the lieutenant. Daeun tensed, unsure what to do. "It's okay," Hana said. "Just stay calm." The cub reached Daeun and sniffed her hand. Then it rubbed against her leg gently. Daeun's eyes widened in surprise. "I can feel it. That warmth. That's the healing? That's them accepting you. They know you're sorry. They know you're trying to understand." Daeun reached down carefully and touched the cub's head. It leaned into her hand, purring. "I've never felt anything like this. It's like peace. That's what they give, but only if you give first." "Give what? Respect? Care? Recognition that they matter?" Hana smiled. "The same things any of us want." Daeun stayed for an hour, sitting quietly while the cubs played around her. When she finally left, she looked different. Softer somehow. More human. Hana remained with the cubs until they fell asleep. She sat in the dim light of their habitat, watching them breathe. 3 small creatures who had lost their parents and found a new family. 3 beings who taught humans that strength and compassion weren't opposites. They were the same thing, expressed differently. And Hana was learning that lesson one day at a time. The distress signal came in the middle of the night. Hana woke to alarms and ran to the command center still in her sleep clothes. Commander Park was already there, staring at a display showing the planet below. "Red markers covered the northern hemisphere. What's happening?" Hana asked. "Velkari adults. Hundreds of them. They're gathering at the edge of their territorial boundaries, and they're broadcasting something." Park played the audio. It was a sound like whale song mixed with thunder, deep and mournful. Our translators can't fully decode it, but the basic meaning is clear. They're searching for something. Hana felt her stomach drop. The cubs. That's our theory. Dr. Kang says the cubs have been responding. Listen. He played another recording. The 3 cubs were in their habitat, making sounds Hana had never heard them make before. Urgent calls. Longing calls. They were answering their people. "They want to go home," Hana said quietly. Dr. Kang arrived, followed by Lieutenant Daeun and the other senior staff. The doctor pulled up biological readings. The cubs' stress levels are rising. They know their people are calling. But they're conflicted. Look at these readings when Captain Lee is near them versus when she's not. The scan showed the cubs' distress decreased significantly in Hana's presence. They were caught between 2 families. Their birth family and their chosen family. "We have to return them," Commander Park said. "It's the right thing to do." "Sir, with respect, we should consider the cubs' health," Dr. Kang interjected. "They've bonded with Captain Lee. Separating them could cause severe psychological trauma to both sides. Are you suggesting we keep them prisoner because a human got attached?" "I'm suggesting we let them choose. The Velkari are clearly intelligent enough to understand complicated situations. Maybe they'd accept a different arrangement." Commander Park considered this. "Contact the Velkari. Request permission for a diplomatic party to land. Include Captain Lee in the team." 6 hours later, Hana found herself in a landing shuttle descending toward Velkaris Prime. The 3 cubs were in a special transport container, not caged, but secured for safety. Through the transparent walls, they watched the planet grow closer. Their excitement was visible in their body language, but they kept looking back at Hana with uncertain eyes. "It's okay," she told them, though she wasn't sure if it was. "We're going to meet your people." The shuttle landed in a clearing surrounded by purple forest. The moment the door opened, Hana felt the weight of dozens of eyes watching them. Velkhari adults emerged from the trees. They were massive compared to the cubs, each one the size of a large dog. Their silver fur rippled with patterns that might have been communication. Their eyes were just as intelligent as the cubs, but harder, more cautious. Dr. Kang released the cubs from the container. They hesitated, then ran toward the adults. The largest adult, clearly the leader, lowered its head to sniff each cub carefully. The other adults surrounded them, making gentle sounds, welcoming them home. But then something unexpected happened. The smallest cub, the one Hana had fed first that very first night, broke away from the adults and ran back to Hana. It climbed up her leg and into her arms, pressing its face against her chest. The leader adult made a sharp sound. The cub responded with its own vocalization. They were arguing. Dr. Kang's translator device crackled to life. The words were rough and incomplete, but understandable. "Young one, return, family, safe now," the cub chirped back. The translator struggled with the meaning, but produced, "Different family, I chose protector. Feeds first." Silence fell over the clearing. Every Velkhari adult focused on those words. Feeds first. The leader adult approached Hana slowly. She forced herself to stand still, though her heart was racing. The creature was enormous up close. It could kill her easily. Instead, it leaned forward and touched its nose to the cub in Hana's arms. Then it touched its nose to Hana's forehead. She felt something surge through her, not just the warmth she knew from the cubs. This was bigger, deeper, ancient. It was like standing in an ocean current of understanding. She saw flashes of Velkhari history, generations of their people living by one principle. The protector who gives before taking is the protector who builds rather than destroys. When the sensation faded, Hana stumbled. Dr. Kang caught her arm.
"Captain, are you all right?"
I understand now. It's not just about feeding. It's about their entire philosophy. Their whole civilization is built on that concept. The leader adult stepped back and made a long, complex sound. The translator worked hard to keep up. Human protector. Sees truth. Gives food before eating. Gives safety before taking comfort. This is our highest way. We thought no other species understood. More adults emerged from the forest. They weren't just the cubs' family. They were representatives. Diplomats. They had been watching the station all along through some means Hana didn't understand. They had seen everything she did. Another adult spoke through the translator. For 10 generations, we watch other species. All take first. Use our people. Never give first. We stay hidden. We stay alone. But Captain Lee gave first, Dr. Kang said, understanding dawning. She proved humans could understand your way. The leader made a sound that might have been agreement. Then it did something remarkable. It lowered itself to the ground in a submissive posture. All the other adults did the same. It was a gesture of profound respect. Through the translator, the leader said, "Human protector, you honor our way. You teach your people our way. You give before taking. You build instead of consuming. We offer choice." "What choice?" Hana asked. "Cubs stay with you. Learn human way while keeping Velkhari way. You stay as protector. But more. You become bridge between peoples. First human to join Velkhari Collective." Commander Park, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "The Velkhari Collective? What is that?" Multiple adults responded, their voices overlapping through the translator. 5 species. All understand give first way. Share worlds. Share knowledge. Share life. Grow together. Never alone. Never taking. Always building. Dr. Kang looked stunned. "You're offering humanity membership in an interspecies alliance. Because Captain Lee fed 3 cubs before eating? Not just feeding," the leader corrected. "Understanding. Your captain understands what takes others generations to learn. If one human understands, others can learn. We offer teaching. We offer friendship. We offer collective." Hana looked at the 3 cubs. The smallest one was still in her arms. The other 2 sat at her feet, looking up at her with trust. They wanted to stay with her, but they also wanted their people. And maybe they could have both. "I accept," Hana said. "I'll be their protector. I'll be the bridge. But I have a condition." The adults waited. "This can't just be about me. Other humans need to learn your way. We need to teach it to our species. The idea that giving first makes you stronger, not weaker. That caring for others before yourself creates better outcomes for everyone. The leader made a sound that was definitely approval. This is wisdom. This is why you are chosen. You understand it must spread like seeds, not stay in one place. Over the next hours, more Velkari arrived. They brought gifts, technology, seeds from their world, information about the 4 other species in their collective. They wanted to establish a permanent exchange. Humans and Velkari learning from each other, growing together. When the landing party returned to the station, everything had changed. Commander Park immediately contacted Fleet Command. Dr. Kang began compiling reports that would reshape humanity's understanding of xenobiology. Lieutenant Daeon volunteered to help establish new training protocols for human-alien interaction. But the biggest change was in Hana herself. She stood in the cubs' habitat that evening watching them play. They were happy, safe, loved. And through them, humanity had found something precious, not just an alliance with another species, but a better understanding of what it meant to be strong. True strength wasn't about taking what you wanted. It was about giving what others needed. True power wasn't about domination. It was about building relationships where everyone grew stronger together. 3 weeks later, Fleet Command issued new protocols to all elite guard units across human space. The directive was simple but revolutionary. Assess the needs of those you protect before asserting your own. True strength is measured not by what you can take, but by what you give first. Captain Lee Hana read the directive in her quarters. The smallest cub, who she had privately named Bjol, was curled in her lap. The other 2 were sleeping nearby. Through her window, she could see Velkari ships arriving with the first wave of cultural ambassadors. Her assignment to this quiet research station had seemed like a punishment at first, a place for a broken soldier to recover out of sight. Instead, it had become the beginning of something that would reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. All because she trusted her instincts. All because she fed 3 hungry cubs before eating herself. All because she chose compassion over protocol. Hana smiled and stroked Bjol's soft fur. The cub purred, and that familiar warmth spread through her chest. The wounds from her past were almost healed now. Not forgotten, but transformed into wisdom, into understanding, into strength of a kind she had never known before. Outside, the stars shone bright, and among them 5 species lived and grew together, united by one simple truth. The strongest protector is the one who gives first. Humanity had finally learned what the Velkari had known for generations. And the universe was better for it.